wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna talk.
Good evening, everyone. This is Talk to Solomon. That's me, Stan Solomon, my co-host.
Chief Steve.
Former Police Chief Steve Davis, lawman extraordinaire, and from freedomradio.us, Brent Johnson. Hello, Brent.
Hi there, Stan. I have a comment I wanted to offer as the conclusion of the last segment, if I may.
Well, let's introduce Dr. Keys and we'll work it in, okay? Our guest of honor
Excellent.
tonight is our friend, Dr. Alan Keyes, former Undersecretary at the United Nations, former senatorial candidate in 2 different states, the very first person
Now,
who really...
Stan, I
What?
have to make sure, though, you don't give a misimpression to folks. It's Assistant Secretary of State for
Oh,
all those
Assistant
international
Secretary of State.
organizations. But
I
just so that they
apologize.
don't confuse me with the United Nations, because I wouldn't want that.
Okay. At any rate, he ran against Barack Obama in Illinois when Barack Obama was running for the United States Senate, tried to sound the alarm, and of course was crapped upon by our media and frankly by the Republicans as well. So, having said that, we have much to talk about. I think it is becoming more and more apparent that Barack Obama is not going to be reelected. Nothing is done until it's done. I think it's becoming more apparent. But some things are not going to change, whether or not Obama is elected or Romney is elected, and that is we have a divorce in this country from God and from the truth that will be our demise if we can't turn it around. Would you be in agreement with that, Dr. Keyes?
Well, sad to say, I am standing, as you know, and I know that some folks may or may not understand, but I have felt for the longest time, and I said so to people who would listen starting in 2008, that I thought Obama would be a one-term president, and that once they got to know him and realized the American people, the grassroots people, that he was a dyed-in-the-wool, authentic, anti-American communist that we had put into the White House, they would wake up in shock and say, oh, gosh, we spent all these years fighting those people, and now we have somebody in the White House who wants to turn us into a communist country. No, thank you. And I think that's happened in a lot of ways. Now, it should certainly, it seems to me, have been true all along. The question you then have to ask yourself is, if you know that there's going to be a reaction against this fellow, and that is going to give, say, the Republicans a good shot at the White House, who would have looked around and said, let's find just about the most left-wing guy we can with a Republican label, who will, without any doubt, whatever his words are, continue to walk us in the direction Obama wants to go. And let's hand him this opportunity to be put in the White House. Wouldn't that be a little suspicious? Wouldn't you just wake up one day and say, with such a golden opportunity to roll back socialism and restore respect for the Constitution and get rid of baby killing and other things, why on earth would you want to have somebody taking advantage of this wonderful moment who is going to keep us walking over that socialist cliff? That's what I wake up every day thinking about, Stan. And I know folks worry about this and that. They obsess over their boogeyman Obama. I was never impressed with this guy. And he never struck fear in my heart, because I knew that the American people weren't going to stomach this communist, and I'm glad they're not stomaching him. But frankly, I think the elitist faction, as I call them, who actually wants that future for us, because communism is actually just another way of saying government by the few, government by the powerful few. Forget all the ideological stuff and look at what really happened in these commie countries. And what happened was that a few folks got all the power and stomped all over everybody else. That's not new in human history. It had a new name. It had some new fancy ideology to go along with it, but it was the same sick story that America had been founded to refute and stop in its tracks. And so it looks like we're going to have a fight on our hands if we believe in the Constitution, we believe in self-government, whether Obama or Romney is elected. And the people who think they're going to be able to say, oh, wonderful, we got a conservative pro-life in the White House. This is a lie. Don't believe this lie. Don't go back to sleep thinking that these things we hold dear are safe, because they're not safe. And all you have to do is look at this man's record in Massachusetts, and you will know what I know. That if people who care about this country's declaration principles and care about the defense of innocent life and care about free enterprise and care about getting back control of our income in our country don't stay alive and awake and involved and willing to oppose the march to socialism, you're going to wake up and find yourself there wearing a Republican label and regretting that you had ever heard it.
All right, I want to go in a slightly different direction. I want to talk about what I think is going to happen, is happening and will happen, outside of the political things, which are worthy of discussion too. There was a program to place billboards around this country. And the billboard said, voter fraud is a felony, 3.5 years and $10,000 fine. And immediately, the Democrats and the left, and some others perhaps, said, why, that's racist. As if only black people do voter fraud, if only, that only Democrats disobey the rules, both of which are not true statements. But the board said nothing other than that, by the way. That's all there was. There was just a gavel, a hammer, a gavel and a place to hit the gavel on, and then those words. That was all that was on the billboard. And Clear Channel, one of the biggest companies in the country, pulled the billboards because they didn't want to be called racist. Before we come back to you, Dr. Keyes, I'm going to go around the board here. Chief, your thoughts?
Well, right is right and wrong is wrong regardless of color. But in this particular case, I'm sure a lot of these signs were in the black community, because if you want to go find Democrats, I mean, that's where they are. That's a good place to start. So what we're not talking about finding black people. We're talking about finding people that are going to be encouraged or enticed into committing a crime and voting illegally. So the sign should be posted where you think you're going to find illegal activity, and probably a lot in the black community. It's just that's just a fact.
Brett.
Yeah, I think this is kind of ridiculous. This is, again, thugs and criminals who are making these determinations. Joseph Stalin said it very well. He said it doesn't matter who votes. What matters is who counts the votes. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. We have such a sieve, in terms of our electoral system. It's all garbage. You have no way of knowing if your vote will be counted. You have no way of knowing whether or not the figures we get from media are actually accurate figures. Nobody gets to know the source codes of the electronic voting machines. Frankly, there is no accurate voting in the United States, the fascist police states of America, I call it, anymore. So the truth of the matter is, it's the luck of the draw. I understand what you're saying. The polls say Obama's going to lose and Romney's going to win, and maybe that'll happen that way, and maybe it won't. But I can guarantee it will have nothing to do with an honest vote count, not one whit.
Dr. Keyes.
Sad to say, Stan, I think I agree largely with what Brett just said. The biggest mistake we are making as a people, if we have any desire to be free whatsoever, is to allow the voting process to be overtaken by methods that at the end of the day can only be overseen by people who have an idiosyncratic and special knowledge, and a handful of them, right? So the more you go to this machine counting and the more you go to electronic voting and all of this stuff, the more you're in a realm where in order to understand how the cheating is done, you would have to be one of these people. And if you're not, then you won't understand it. Now, the second point. What is one of the most corrupt sectors of our economic life, whether we like it or not? The one where you find all these vicious people who just want to show how smart they are by crashing everybody's computers and showing that they can destroy commerce and do other stuff. And do a lot of it in an environment where they can make scads of money by selling their talent so that they can do this mischief. You find it in the tech field. I mean, no offense to anybody, but it's not a field that's renowned for the high ethical standards in which business has been conducted and competition has been pursued and so forth. Nah, it's pretty cutthroat. and pretty focused on what gets the money. And so if you are dealing with a sector that can be bought, it seems to me we would now have an election system that these billionaire clubs that Karl Rove and all these other people talk to, and the foreign billions that Obama gets, you don't think they're going to be used to buy up some of the people who know how to cheat and buy up the rest of the people who could detect the cheating so they won't say anything? I think that's bound to happen, don't you? And then final point, one that Brandt didn't make. I would go further. I think Stalin, in his usual fashion, was trying to distract us a little, Brandt, from the reality. Because in the Soviet Union, elections weren't determined by who counted the votes. Elections were determined by who chose the candidates. Because the person who determines what the choice is between this one and that one and that one and that one, that person determines the outcome of the election, making sure that nobody's going to be voted for except somebody that toes their party line. Once you get into that situation, combine it with the ability to manipulate these electronic doodads, and what do you get? You get a system in which elections are essentially a kind of show and a decision being made behind the scenes between the leftist Romney and the leftist Obama. Which one is going to get us to the goal of consolidating our power with the least restive trouble from the masses? And I'm not entirely sure what these people will say in answer to that question, but I think that's the question. And does that mean that I think that it's no use, we might as well throw our hands up in despair and so forth? I'm not sure of that. That's why I've been trying to focus people on the congressional elections, because it seems to me that just as they say about the devil in theology, he can't be everywhere, he's not omnipresent. So even people with large resources have to concentrate their efforts. So if you're concentrating your effort on the presidency, maybe you won't spend so much time cheating on the other in the other elections. Why bother? And so then you might actually have a shot at electing some people who, if they read the Constitution every day when they get up, would keep any executive in check. Because the Congress of the United States has the power, if it has the political will, to stop any executive in its tracks when he starts to abuse power. It's just that because of this partisan sham we've been subject to, the Congress hasn't had the will in either party.
All right.
If I may, just as a
Go ahead,
capper,
Brent.
Okay. The reason for that is what you said earlier, Stan, that we have abandoned the truth as a value system. It's not important to tell the truth. It's important to make money. And when money becomes the most important thing in your system, in your culture, you'll do anything for money. You'll lie, you'll cheat, you'll steal, you'll kill, because that's your ultimate goal. Until we change the values to value truth and rule of law and justice more than money, none of this will ever change, because we attract the wrong kind of people into politics. We attract them who just want the money and the power.
All right, well said. Now let's segue now into the next topic, and that is that we are seeing not subtle, we're not seeing sporadic, we are seeing an overwhelming tidal wave of, if Obama is not elected, we're going to riot. It's primarily coming from the black community, no question, but it's coming from more than just the black community, and it's not coming from everyone in the black community by any stretch, but somehow no one's paying attention. So I want to start this discussion. We'll start with Chief Steve, is law enforcement. Law enforcement is, they often call it the thin blue line. If there are major uprisings, all law enforcement can do is back up and try and contain it some, but they really can't stop it. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it would depend on the community, but generally that's what happens. But I would like to add this caveat, is that there have been many people in the black community so far that have been practicing getting ready for this, with all of these black mobs that we've seen have been attacking people in parks and shopping malls and stores and other places. But it's just going to depend on the planning and the resources of the department, which are more than not always going to be overwhelmed by any type of a mob.
And that is my point. I believe that if on November the 6th, 2 weeks from today, that Barack Obama loses, that on November 6th, 2 weeks from today, starting whenever that decision is reached, whether it's at 10 o'clock at night or midnight or 2 in the morning, or maybe, I don't know, depending on where you are. I mean, we have East Coast, West Coast, but when that decision is reached, we are going to see substantial and tragic reactions, and it will be a bad day, a sorry day. Brent, your thoughts?
I don't disagree with you, Stan, but I do disagree on the source of the problem. There was a story last week, I think it was, where director of the NAACP in a Chicago neighborhood was assaulted and threatened by an Obama campaign worker when he said he wasn't going to vote for Obama. He wasn't going to vote for Romney either, but he wasn't going to vote for Obama. He actually got threatened. And he's a black man, okay? I think that, I don't think the black people are mindless. I don't think that they're just sitting there saying, oh, whatever the media says, we'll do. They say that we're being abused, we're being abused. I think that they've gotten a good picture. I've heard it from too many people in the black community that Obama is not looking out for the black community. So I don't believe that this is a swell among the black community. What I think is going on is that between the corrupt politicians and the political machine and the corrupt and complicit media, okay, that they are fomenting a situation to encourage and maybe even create riots and things like that. But I believe if left alone, I don't think the black people would rise up if and hopefully when Obama loses.
I agree with you.
And again, I'm not a Romney fan either.
I agree with you totally, but that wasn't what I was saying. I believe that there are elements within the black community and elements within the white community and elements within the Hispanic community. And I think just like the Los Angeles riots were instigated and promulgated and armed by an undercover, if you will, insidious group, I think those groups are there. Now I'll go to you, Dr. Keys. I am concerned. I think that every American, white, black, yellow, red, brown, should understand the dangers that are out there, should prepare a plan, should arm themselves defensively, and not be caught. Because I think that the plot has already been planted, and it will only thicken. Your thoughts?
Well, the question is, because when I make my assessment of the American people, let's talk about that, I don't believe any of this. Okay, the folks in this country who have the habit of elections and winning and losing and so forth and so on, not going to riot in the streets because somebody loses an election, and the notion that they are is just a lie. Now, why would we be subject to this kind of barrage that is supposed to prepare us for terrible things being done by the black community, by this one, that one? It's because, Stan, I'm sorry, I think that we have been, for the last several years, subject to a strategy intended to terrorize the American people, to turn them into a people so afraid of this, that, and the other thing, that they worry about security, they worry about the order, they worry about riots, they worry about crime, they worry about everything except their liberty, everything except the character to sustain it. See? So that the understanding that we have had, that we are a people who have, by the providence of God, been born into a heritage of liberty, and that is our primary concern, it's supposed to be displaced now by fear. And let's put the word to it. Cowardice. And I'm sick of all this cowardice. Yes. This country was carved out of this continent by people who had to go into the teeth of danger. They made the choice to do so. And now we've become what? So timid that the idea that some thugs or even some terrorists are going to try to scare us out of our freedom has us quaking in our boots. I'm not quaking in my boots. Make my day, as Clint Eastwood says. And there ought to be a lot of Americans just sitting back and saying, make my day, buddy, because this country still belongs to us. And if the people in the government don't understand that decent people still have the right to defend themselves, a lot of Americans, by the millions, understand that they do.
I agree with you totally. That's exactly what I'm saying.
But let me finish. Every terrorist if the Obama leftists, if all these people think they're going to scare somebody, then I think we ought to just sit back quietly, go about our business, conduct our affairs, go to the polls, and vote as we think is best for our country. And if they want to cause some trouble, we ought to say what we have always said when the trouble comes. We didn't start this, buddy, but we will finish it.
We're going to finish it. Yeah.
Right. Well, again,
I just don't even think we need to talk about this anymore, Stan, because
Well,
I don't. I think it's a lot of fear-mongering, and we are not a fearful people. We will deal with them if we have to. And don't sell the police short, and don't sell the authorities short, because I think that except for the cowardice of our sick-minded leftist elites, we wouldn't have to deal even now with a bunch of terrorists killing our ambassadors and other stuff. Because a lot of Americans had a different way of understanding how we ought to handle all of this than electing somebody who's going to be on his knees more than half the time telling the world how much we deserve this garbage. So
again,
I think that it's just wrong. We're selling ourselves short. I don't sell the American people short. And I think that you're going to see the proof. What worries me sometimes, Stan, is that people have forgotten, and I think it's still true. You know, there's that sense that we have had, and it's a reason John Wayne movies have crossed the generations and things like this. I know people, young folks, love them. Why? It's that notion, you know, push me. I'm a quiet guy. I'm a peaceful man. I'd rather love my kids and run my business and farm and till my fields and study my vocation. But if you really have got to push me, then you can be sure, buddy, I'm going to push back. And once we get into it, we won't stop until we've deprived you of every strength you have to do us harm. And I think people can understand that abroad, and they ought to understand that here. One of the things that bothers me, we're supposed to believe there was some debate on foreign policy the other night. And what really bothered me is that out of these two people we're supposed to choose among, I didn't hear a single word that corresponded to that simple, clear, conscientious, and courageous declaration, because neither of them has the guts to follow it up. Or the commitment.
I just want to add.
I love you, Alan.
All right. I just want to add, Alan, that I don't disagree with you at all. Certainly anyone that knows me knows that's where I come from. But I believe everyone should be prepared. It is better to have it, not need it, than to need it, not have it. I know, Stan,
but Stan, you know what? Part of, I think there are things that, I don't talk about them a lot. I just filed them away. I file away the fact that the Obama folks thought they were going to buy up all the ammunition in the country. But a lot of people had other ideas. I file away the fact that in the course of the last several years, more Americans have bought more firearms than pretty much at any time in a comparable period in our history. What do you think folks have been doing? I think people have been looking at this situation and saying, not for me. I'm a peaceful guy, but push comes to shove. Show up on my doorstep, threatening my babies, and I am not going to sit here unarmed while you tell me what you're going to do to them. And I think a lot of people have already been acting on this, Stan. And I think the folks who think that they're going to scare us in some way ought to take account of this, because I think they should look at those numbers.
Well said. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more. This is Talk to Solomon. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and give yourself common sense peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be. Mosey, the backup people. I like to eat. You like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put it on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 Supercolloidal Silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get Supercolloidal Silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back.